So as we grow as human beings, we move through different levels of consciousness. The most obvious thing, like Piaget talked about it, as kids grow up. You see it with little kids, and as kids get older, and Piaget talked about concrete operational and formal operational, and so you go from concrete thinking, kind of black and white thinking, to more gray thinking. So that's an example of moving from one level of consciousness, or one, he probably called it something else, something with the word cognitive in it, I imagine. But it's moving from into a different level of consciousness. So when we grow spiritually, we are moving into higher levels of consciousness. It's almost like moving into a different dimension. It's a different vibration, the energy. We see things differently there. We see more of life there. We see more of life as it is each time we evolve into a higher level of consciousness. So when a lower state of consciousness encounters a higher state of consciousness, okay, the lower state of consciousness is not able to comprehend the reality of the higher state of consciousness, the higher level of consciousness. It doesn't make any sense to it. It doesn't even exist. It's not real to them. So what the lower state of consciousness does is it takes what the higher state of consciousness and it puts it in a box. It conceptualizes it and calls it something that does reside at that level of consciousness. Okay, so it's getting a little heady, but I'll give you, so you've experienced this, I'm sure. You're talking to your parents or your Christian friends or a concrete thinker, okay, or whatever else, and you're trying to explain something that you've just unlocked spiritually, or you're trying to explain something, a new idea about vulnerability or whatever else. And you can see maybe their eyes glazing over a little bit, and then they'll usually say, "Oh, you mean like this, you mean this." And you're sitting there, that's actually not what I meant. But that's them taking something that they can't comprehend that you're saying, and they're putting it in a box, something that their mind can deal with. And then unfortunately what happens then is they're no longer dealing with you or the thing you're saying. They're dealing with the concept of you or the concept of what you're saying, rather than directly interacting with you or what you're talking about. Okay, so that's how it happens on one side. Now this happens on the other side too, is like when we grow and we have a spiritual experience or a dream or a vision or a meditation or whatever it is that we have, when we grow, there's things that are on the fringe of our consciousness. There's things that are at a higher level of consciousness than we are, that's trying to come into our consciousness so we can grow into that consciousness. And when that happens, our tendency is for our mind, I'm going to pick on our mind here, our intellect or our mind is going to put that in a box. So we get put into a box by other people, and then we put new levels of consciousness into boxes. Okay, that's my premise. You can agree or not agree with that, of course. And so the idea here is I want to focus more on this side. In sessions, I talk about how it's a bummer when people put you in a box, and that's really important work to understand that and not take it personally and all that stuff. This time, I want to talk about when we put things in a box. Okay, so when we have a new spiritual experience, in a sense, it like blows our mind. And we typically like to have our mind blown for a little while, right? It's like, wow, it totally blew my mind. We like to have a ceremony. We like to have a psychedelic or ayahuasca experience, and we like to have this mind-blowing dream or this meditation or this chakra opening, or we like to have our mind blown because it's just like, whoa, that is wild. It's a little scary, but that's exciting. But then the aftermath of that is our mind will tend to put that in a box. in the way it does that, it starts getting fairly intellectual about it. And a lot of times these are spiritual experiences that kind of transcend the intellect. They certainly transcend our current level of consciousness. So it's kind of better to not put it in a box. So how do you do that? Is you resist it. You notice, you have compassion for your mind. You notice that your mind wants to put it in a box. It wants to, this is when we analyze it and we want to understand it and we intellectually figure out, oh, what this means. And that, it depends how intellectual you are, but we find different ways of putting it in a box. And then we kind of bring it in and have it and bring it into our mind's dimension, which kind of defeats the purpose, because this new experience was trying to have us transcend that dimension. So integrating something is not bringing it from the higher dimension and integrating it into this dimension. It's integrating it into your life, but it's not doing that. So what do we do? The alternative you have is to allow your mind to be blown for a while, and know that your intellect's not going to like it. Know that you're going to be feeling like I've been talking about a couple weeks ago. You're going to be in that world of the unknown, and where you don't really understand how everything works, which can be a little stressful. And so if you just kind of allow your mind, that I talked about it 3 weeks ago, I think, is the Native American folks sometimes call it like the mystery, like living in the mystery. Like they call spirit sometimes mystery. They pray to mystery. It's like living in the mystery, living in the unknown, and allowing and not having all these finite answers to your questions. It's like, now that I had this new experience, it's like it's shifting me and I'm seeing the world differently. And then it's just allowing it. Well, let's figure out the mystery. Sometimes we before we do ceremony, we say, I am nothing, I know nothing, to stay in that unknown mystery. Let's hang out there. And then integration is not understanding it intellectually. This is where so many people, spirituality becomes so intellectual. We read books and we take it and we want to make it all intellectual. Rather, resist that and just hang out in the mystery and just saying, wow, I had my mind blown. It's a little scary, but this is kind of cool. Now that I had that experience, what are the implications? Oh my gosh, that means that the way I was treated with this, that doesn't work anymore. I'm going to have to figure out a new way to deal with that. If I want to stay true to my new dimension, my new vision, I should maybe find out a new way of doing this. And it's almost a little like adolescence, right? It's awkward. We don't know how it works, and that's okay. If we can hang out in that unknown mystery, that kind of adolescent figuring out how things work, and be an inquiry about it rather than intellectualizing, stay in inquiry. And inquiry is all about, I wonder what's going on. I wonder what this is. It's asking ourselves questions, open-ended questions. I wonder why it's this way. I wonder when I had my experience and I could just see, I was whatever, I just felt like I was one with the tree. It's what are the implications of that? I wonder if I'm one with other things too. And what's that like? What does that mean? Am I still Mike if I'm one with the tree? I don't know. It's am I different now? Am I bigger than I thought I was? Am I not so defined like I thought I was? These are inquiry questions, and they're great because that's how we truly integrate the new level of consciousness, is by dealing with it in terms of the new level of consciousness, not taking the new level of consciousness and bringing it down into our old level of consciousness. That's what we tend to, that doesn't help. And then after a while, the new all goes away and we're back where we started. But now we can tell our friends that we had this far out experiences, but we didn't get the full value. We got value, but we didn't get the full value of allowing this experience to help us transcend into a new level of consciousness, a new way of seeing the world. So hang out in the mystery. So that is my video. Allow yourself to hang out in the mystery. When you have a new experience, deal with it in terms of itself. Go to that level. Go up to that level of consciousness rather than bringing it down into your mind. And I will see you in a week.